Hello, hi everyone. Can someone confirm if you can hear me? Fine. There is no issues in voice and all, anything. You can see my screen. All right, cool. So let's start. So it's a fine morning, afternoon, and we are all here to discuss about Cypress and to see it work. Uh, So Cypress is pretty new. Let me introduce this tool a bit, what we are going to do today and what's our agenda looks like. And it's very interesting tool. And let's see what is our agenda. So the first one is we need to understand like what is Cypress and why we need one more tool. Enough isn't it enough that we have so many tools out there, and why Cypress is there even to be start with, right? Uh, Next thing, what we are going to discuss is how it is different than any other tool which run on web drivers. So if you are not aware about web drivers, I would request you to look at our recording, our video on Selenium WebDriver, or just Google it. It's pretty niche and pretty famous tool in test automation space. Then the next thing we are going to discuss is how to even work with Cypress, and is it really worth it? And then we are going to look into a basic application setup. So let's start with the first point. Um, why? What is Cypress and why one more tool? So there is some chats. Yep. All right. So the first point is let's look at this slide. So if you are not aware about Selenium WebDriver, then let me explain this slide a bit. But how Selenium WebDriver works, it shows us that. So what it does when it runs the script, so you write a script in Selenium, in Java, or in any language of your choice, let's say JavaScript, C#, C++, anything. It converts that into a JSON web protocol. It's a protocol so that the web driver, which is provided by the company ThoughtWorks or Selenium, is the tool. Every browser implement their own version of their web driver. So let's say Chrome have Chrome drivers, Firefox has Firefox drivers, IE drivers, and there is a lot of chaining you can see over here. So the language bindings, they talk to these web drivers, and then these web drivers create some sessions on your browsers, and that is a HTTP protocol, and then they listen to all those responses from the browsers, whether they executed it fine or not. And this is a time consuming task if you are running if you are thinking about running lot of tests. And you can imagine in a big industry or in a big company, or as your application grows, you would tend to increase your test coverage, and that lead to more timing. So in terms of your CI time, or in terms of your build time, it takes more time on of the developer day-to-day activity if you are practicing CI/CD. And of course, you can set up Selenium grid, you can set up a lot of parallel testing, parallel automation and all, but it also takes a lot of effort to maintain it. It's not very easy to first of all, it's not very easy to scale. You need to maintain it a lot. And I mean, how it do not work smartly. You have to tell it specifically which node you want to run it, and so you have to register all the nodes on the grid, and you have to maintain it in there. So someone is in your company need to take care of that maintenance. And how Cypress works, they these guys really jump onto how we can bring developers and testers really close to each other. So we will look into an example where I'm going to explain how that works. But in nutshell, Cypress, when it starts your testing, these are its features. So the first one is, unlike Selenium WebDriver, Cypress commands are not executed outside of your application. It is executed inside the Chrome browser. So your browsers. So how does that work? So if you know about a basic HTML setup, basic websites, then you must know that you can inject some JavaScript libraries in them. And if this term is really new to you, what is JavaScript? Just Google it out. It's something that browsers understand. And how Cypress leverage it? It just injects a JavaScript library of its own into the source code. So your source code is now having one more library, which is Cypress, and it's not outside of your application. It is inside of your application. That is, it loads your application code within its context. So it can easily talk to it or manipulate it in some way, so that you want to do some negative testing of the UI. And it's very incredible. So that benefits it to be, very incredibly faster than Selenium, because it works on promises, and it is really, the concept of Cypress is such that it's sit on network layer. So it is the same layer where your browser sends commands, so you can control easily the traffic and also how the application will behave. Don't worry if some of these terms are new to you. We are going to dig into it. But this is a really important feature where the Cypress outsmart Selenium WebDrivers. So we are not here really comparing WebDrivers. It has its own benefit, but Cypress is very nice and niche tool. It's new in the market, and it's really powerful in terms of out of the box. It's set up. So it is very easy to set up. We will look into that in a small moment. It's very developer friendly, since developers build JavaScript code so that they understand JavaScript. So even the UI part, because the UI is so much important in today's world, that if your website has a shitty UI, it's not going to be appreciated, or of course it's not accessible, or it do not have rich UI features, then you lack somewhere, right? So it's really developer friendly, and it support out of the box stubbing and mocking. So as I explained, that Cypress sits on a network layer. So what is network layer, if you are not familiar with it? So just imagine, let's go to our sample website, which we are going to automate today. So this is a computer database website. It's a testing website. So as you see here, this data is coming from somewhere in the backend. You can add a new computer. It creates, you can create a new computer, right? And this format, yes, these are the validations, and you can define something here and create it. And this data is coming from somewhere. And since Cypress is inside this view, when it loads this view, it sits on top of it, so it can control your network traffic. So whatever you see, if you open this developer tools, this is called the developer tools. Right click on it, click inspect, or command F12, you can see this view. There you can see all your elements, what you are seeing, right? So here, this is our H1 element, this is our header, this is a div, this is another div for actions, like that. And and here you have the source code. Currently, this is the JavaScript or the UI which you see. And here you will see one more source code sitting right beside it. That's for Cypress when we run it. And since it's here, it already knows what traffic is going outside and inside of your application. So how does that benefit? Let's go back to our slide. So since it sits there, you can control what data you can inject, in your application, and that helps in stubbing. Let's say your backend is not ready, and you want something to test on UI, right? In traditional Selenium WebDriver way, it's not easy to set up, a mock server which can give you some responses. But in Cypress world, it's really easy. So you can say to Cypress, when UI fires this request, give me this request in this response, whatever you set. So Cypress is that smart to recognize whenever UI is calling that particular API in the backend. It can detect it, and it can inject your own data set. So you can do lot more testing, negative testing, for example, and you can test your UI in a very smart way. And it also supports a viewport testing. So if you are not familiar with what is viewport, so let's see here. If you are seeing my screen in Chrome, there is a toggle device toolbar view, right? And it's a responsiveness of this application, and it gives me some idea about how this application is going to behave on different views. So when I open this application in iPhone X, it's going to look something like this. If I open it in, it's not responsive application what we're going to test today, but if it is responsive, you can imagine that you will see it in full screen. You can do some swipe and all and everything like that. And that is very key feature while doing testing for responsiveness. And you don't rely on real emulators, real mobile devices. Of course, sometimes you want to test them, but most of the time when you are testing UI, it's not really essential, because you are validating your UI, how it looks like on different viewports. And it's very easy in Cypress. We will shortly take a look at it, how it will behave. So it's very beneficial in viewport testing. It's reliable and less flaky. It's very important. So Selenium, in most of the time, you can imagine if you are familiar with Selenium, the test as you grow, they tend to become flaky because the elements sometimes do not load in proper way. It's hidden behind some other element, and you cannot easily figure out what's going wrong. And Cypress, in terms of detect it automatically and give you suggestions like how you can tackle it and fix it. So even there are sometimes issues that your UI is wrong. When it loads, it's wrong, but Selenium passes it. So the test will pass, but your UI, how the component should render, right? So maybe there is a hidden component like a div with transparency, with opaque div sitting on top of that. And Cypress can complain you sometimes that it is hidden behind this. So you can easily detect some more issues with this feature. The next part is it support Mocha and Chai assertions. So why it is important, So what are these? So Mocha is a framework which is widely accepted and used in today's world with developers. So while they write their unit tests, and the assertions, they are you can define the assertions is something where you compare what is expected and what is actual. And it supports JavaScript assertion library, that is Chai. And it has nice out of the box reporting and parallel execution. Of course, the parallel execution is a paid service, but it's not, the amount is not that huge that big organizations can't afford. And it's very smart. So you can integrate any type of CI. So let's say you use Travis CI, you use Jenkins, you use GitLab, it doesn't matter. You can integrate any form of CI with this dashboard service, and it will smartly detect the time span, and it tries to minimize it as much as possible. And it has the most important feature. It's not a feature, but it's something which I really like about Cypress, is it has a really good and rich documentation. So let me open its website. I'm going to switch this view to normal website view, and I'm going to open Cypress website. And this is a documentation website for Cypress. And if you see here, it has everything you need for writing a test. Even a lame person who is very new, who in the terms of test automation, can set this tool very easily by reading this documentation. It's very clear and it's very intuitive. You can find many things in this which you can use by looking at this documentation, and it's very readable, which I know that we lack in Selenium WebDriver. There is no good documentation you will find anywhere, or how to do this, how to, for example, I want screenshots out of the box. How is there any example, right? And you have to dig a lot on Google or on YouTube to find out, oh, what's going on. And in Cypress, they provided a very nice application, some example applications, and you can take a look at the documentation. It's really cool. The next thing we are important slide, that it should not be used for some areas. So if your application is requiring a third-party authentication or very complex authentications like Salesforce or other B2B applications, I would advise you to not use Cypress, because Cypress is more on sits on top of controlling your own application, and not that it doesn't care about the third parties. Since I explained, since Cypress sits beside its source code beside your application, right? And it's uh, that's why it's very hard to trigger the third party events, third party UI events. For example, if you are familiar with Google OAuth 2, right? What it does is, let's say I write, you are on Facebook or Google, and it sometimes in any application on registration page, it asks you to how you would prefer to be registered, either via Gmail or either via Facebook and something like that. And that's where you should not try to automate those scenarios with Cypress, because since Cypress do not control how Facebook is going to behave, it's very hard to predict what will be the response and when will be it available on UI. So of course you can test your application if without authentication if it's possible. Talk with your developers and figure out how that can be. The next part is, if your company has really strong cross-browser requirements, you at this moment cannot use Cypress. Cypress supports Chrome and Electron browsers, and they have a very nice documentation explaining why it's not really required to have a cross-browser support. But they are working on it. They in 6 months or so you will find it, maybe for IE and Firefox as well. But at least the Firefox, I know they are working on it. Then the next part is testing on real mobiles or emulators. If you want your application to be tested on real mobiles, then it's not for you. But yes, what I have done personally with Cypress, I have done UI testing and mocking, and also the testing of screen diff. It's very nice feature. You can compare your screenshots with baseline and see how the UI is behaving differently. It's not covered in this demo, but there are a lot of cool areas. You can write your own plugin to do very good things with Cypress. So if you want to test on real mobiles, it is advised not to use Cypress. But as I said in the previous slide, you can use a web viewport testing. So you can define at runtime different viewports and check your button location, and that is sufficient when you want to test your UI. Of course, the real mobile, the why you can test, that's a separate discussion. But for UI testing, Cypress is much more feasible to do it using viewports. So let's now straight dig into our demo. There are a couple of things which is required for Cypress to work, and the first and foremost is the Node.js and npm. Sorry, let me explain it a bit. So this is a website where you can download Node.js. What is Node.js? As it explained here on their website, as it's a JavaScript runtime built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. So normally the JavaScript was first introduced to we work on HTML pages on websites, but then the people understand its simplicity, and that's why they also introduce to have a runtime engine, so that you can install on your machine and execute JavaScript on your machine as well instead of web browsers. So the Node allows you to do that. So how to install Node.js is, if your application involves in today's world UI, you already have it installed in your companies, or you can check with your developers what version of Node you have and something like that. In my case, I can simply check for installation. You can download this. It will install Node and npm both in your machine, and try to have it above this version, above 8.10, because that's a minimum version for Cypress. And so try latest LTS. So LTS means long-term supported version, and it has most of the bug fixes. So you can try this out, and it's also have Windows and Mac OS both supported. So once you install it, then you can verify quickly if it's installed. In my machine, it's installed, and I'm gonna use today the editor, which is very lightweight and really cool, which is Visual Studio Code. And our application or our test framework will look something like this. So let's start. I'm gonna close this for now. Sorry, let's close this. Yes, and let's start with scratch. First, I'm gonna create a directory. And in the end of this tutorial, I'm gonna push the same code in this path. So I'm gonna use this folder name as Cypress sample project. And this will be available on this GitHub repository, and we will share it later. So now, yeah, it's saying my connection is unstable. Can you guys, Akshay, can you hear me fine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. It showed me that my connection is unstable, but I think it's fine, right? No issues so far?
Broken up a bit, but we can hear you.
Okay, okay, fine. Thanks. So I'll go slowly so that if there is some connection problem, it won't matter much. So yeah, I created a directory. So now if I open it, you will see this directory is available. Let's go into that directory. And as you are seeing at this moment, I have not touched any editor, right? I'm not writing any code. I'm just setting up my project. So now Cypress sample project folder is there. There is nothing inside it. Yes, there is nothing inside it. And now I'm going to add some code. As I said before, we need node and npm. So the first step is initiating the npm in your folder or in your project. So I'm going to initialize it using this command npm init, and it's going to create a file called package.json file. This file, if you know Java, it's similar to your pom.xml, or in Gradle, it's same as build.gradle, where you define your repository block with the dependencies. You know, it's a dependency manager tool, and the npm itself, it's called node package manager. So the package there is the artifact which it will install in your machine. So once you do this command, uh, just hit enter for now. It will create a sample package.json, and now we are going to open Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to open my editor, and I'm going to open this folder. So this is my folder, and let's see. So I have this file created by for me by npm, and it already have something, you know, some code, some piece of information available. And this piece of code, this structure is a JSON structure. So where you define key value pairs, and it is understandable for you know, when you write a JavaScript in JavaScript world, JSON is very important aspect. So it's a very easy to understand. It's just a key value, but it also can also have a value as object. So you can also define another key value sets inside this, like that. Yeah. So the next thing what we are going to do is we will only work in this terminal so that it's visible what we are doing. So let's install Cypress, right? That's what we are here for. So the first thing we will install is npm install Cypress save dev. There is this argument which you see, npm install Cypress, or if you want to follow the documentation, they also say the same thing, npm install Cypress save dev, and let's follow it, right? So first I run this command simply, and it's gonna install Cypress version 331, which is the latest version. Let's wait for a couple of seconds, and it should be done. And as you see, it's automatically installing a lot of stuff, and it added something here just now. And this is really important stuff. So it added a version 331, and it created a folder called node modules where you can now install your other packages. So npm detected it that okay, you requested me to install a package, so I need a place where I can install further packages, right? And it is going to grow. It has all the JavaScript code required to run Cypress, and now Cypress is installed. That's it. And now we are going to just open it. So to open it, we have to go into the node modules, bin, Cypress, and then we have to write command open. But there is also one way to do it in smartly and more easily. So the way is I can write a script here in the scripts block. This will allow me to use shortcuts. So how it is, I can name it anything. Let's say I name it open Cypress, and I give exactly the same command what I am writing there in the end. And now I can use this. So first I'm going to show how it will look like when I open from here. So now Cypress is that smart that it identified, oh, you are opening it for the first time. Let me help you. And it created a project, a sample project, and it's telling me that try running the test in examples folder and add your own test to Cypress integration folder. So we will go to that, but let's close it for now. So I'm gonna run the command which I wrote, that is the npm, by using the command npm run open Cypress. Both are doing the same thing. It's called it could not find it. Oh, I did not save it, sorry. Npm run open Cypress. Yes, sorry, the file was not saved, and now it can find that command and it will open the Cypress in the same way how opening it from the node module worked. So now Cypress is available and it is telling me, let's go through this UI, what it is telling me first. So it is telling me that there are some tests here, which it provided me as an example. We will take a look. On the right side, it is telling me of what account I'm using, and it will be used later for dashboard services, where you can see some cool features regarding recording of your execution, regarding screenshots and everything like that. The next is here the browsers. So one is the Chrome browser version 74, which is installed on my machine. And then the second one is Electron browser, which is provided out of the box from Cypress. So this Electron browser is version 61. And what is this browser? This browser is again environment which mimic Chromium. Okay, so it has the logic what Chrome uses, but also the node installation. So just forget if you do not, that is a nitty-gritty, it's just another kind of browser. But it's used for development and it's very it do not have any other creepy stuff what Chrome has. So it's very lightweight. So you can use Electron or Chrome in this view. So you can choose either. I choose Chrome, and then in the UI on the left side, it's showing me the test, then it's showing me the runs, and then it's showing me the settings. So in settings, it is telling me that there are some options available to try you for out. So for example, I'm not going to cover everything at this moment, but something worth noting. The first one is base URL. So you can define, let's say, the starting point of your application in this file. What is this file? If you see on my screen, there is a cypress.json file. And in that file, you can just put these values. And you can define your base URL where your application starts, and some Chrome web security. For example, your application is running on HTTPS. So you would like to enable this or disable this so that you will not be asked to, the Chrome shows that the certificate is not valid UI, you might have seen it. So that way you can bypass it and run your test. So it has very nice configuration examples. Then in the second tab, you will also see your runs. So as soon as you complete a run of your testing, you will see an evidence over here. Then let's set it up, this project, to record stuff for us. So we will do it later. First, we will try to run all the tests. Let's see if it really works. So I just did nothing. I installed Cypress, and it's now going to execute all its tests, sample tests, what it provided. So the first, and you will see how fast it is. It is here doing slow typing, but there are a lot of things going on. So some actions, then it is submitting a form, it is doing a lot of UI stuff, stretching of the component, and doing a lot of stuff, some scrolling behaviors. And it hardly will take around 1 minute to finish all the tests. 1 minute to finish all the tests. So it's, as you can see, it's really fast. And when we will automate, I will also prove that to you. And that's the thing I was talking, the first point, why Cypress. So as you can see, it's doing a lot of stuff, and then there will be some tests for viewport. Look out for that. So the test where I explained that you can change the viewport, and also here you can also see it's taking a screenshot of your application. So there is also a command like cy.screenshot. cy is something which is Cypress way of letting itself know that it's the line which you have written, it's a Cypress command. That's it. So you can just type it. We will go to it, but first let it complete. Let's see. And then the second block, as you can see right now, what it's running is some network request stubbing, to check, okay, if correct requests are being fired or not. And it's very, very fast and telling. Yeah, it took more than 1 minute because I think there are lots of scenarios. Let's see how many. 88, 89, you can see the number. So I would not mind running like 200 tests in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And now here are the viewport examples. So as I said before, you can change how UI will fit different components in different views and assert on top of that. And that's it. So it took around 2 minutes, but it covered around 106 test cases on a web page. And that's the beauty of it. And that's how it worked. And if you have some experience with Selenium, you will quickly grasp that it is faster if you take a look at how the UI was responding. Let's go back, and now we are going to look at the folder structure. So the first thing, what I did initially here, I'm going to cancel it and I'm going to clear it. Yes. So I installed Cypress, and then I wrote a command to open it. There is this folder structure. As you can see, the first is package.json. I showed you node modules. I explained you Cypress.json file. It's something which is added by Cypress itself. Then on the left here, you will see some fixtures folder, integrations folder, plugins, screenshots. So here this has the test, whichever it captured a screenshot, it saved it on this path. And you can easily figure it out by looking at this test, how to write a test. And I'll come back to this, but in the folder structure, you will put all your test cases, spec files inside integration folder. If you want to change it, you can change it, but in the Cypress, in this file, you need to define the path where you are putting your new spec files. So let's say instead of naming this, I gave some other name, because Cypress by default follow this folder structure. If you want to change it, you can do that. The next part is the support part, where you can define a bit more logic, as I explained you, like for example, reusable functions, like Cypress commands add in this format. And as soon as you add it, and then you can easily use Cypress, like anywhere in its code, you can do something cypress.login and email password. And Cypress will automatically figure it out, or that you have written this in the support code. like that. So that's about it. And let's now write our own test. So I'm gonna delete all these examples because now we are going to write our own tests. The next thing is, yeah, nothing is required here. I'm gonna delete this as well, or let's skip it. There's nothing harm in that. So here, as I said, we will define a base URL of our application, and our application, what we are going to test today is this. So the base URL is the one with before computers, because as you can see, as you go in some places, it will change. So I'm going to give this as the base URL of my application. So when the Cypress will load your application, it will go to this base URL first, and I can append like this, so that and now I can write a spec test. So let's write it. I can add a folder. Let's call it computer database tests, and in this I'm gonna write a file which is called navigation.spec.js. What is JS? It's a JavaScript file. So as I said before, Cypress is a node module, node package. It understands JavaScript. So we will define our test in a JavaScript spec file format. And the format is really easy. It's not at all complicated. Let's dig into it. So there are a couple of stuff you can use. One is describe, to describe your feature. If you are familiar with the Gherkin syntax, or the BDD or something like that, there you will see that you define a feature and then you define some scenarios. And in the Mocha framework, you use describe to define your feature. So what is the feature? I'm just going to write like computer database website navigation, right? And here, after this, it says that I need a callback function. So Mocha will understand that, okay, when this runs, what it wait for. So it should wait for something to return. And the annotation is, so it's like this. So what it is, it's a new way of telling a function. In previous JavaScript's old codes, if you are familiar, you used to write it like this. But at ES6, ES5, they introduced shorthands annotation. So you can also write like this. So I'm going to use this annotation, and then I'm going to define my scenario. So what is my first scenario? My first scenario is that I should be able to like computer database navigation should be able to navigate to various pages, let's say, right? And here the same concept. So as you see here, it's describe it block, that's it. And you can also do something like, before running every test, I want to do some setup. So for example, I want to open a page before every test, right? So I don't want to use that code again and again in every test block or it block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a code. Sorry, it's called cy dot visit. It's taking, okay, this is the editor issue, but it's fine. You can write it like this, and here I'm going to say computers. So what it will do, what is this command cy-visit? It is telling browser to load the base URL which you have defined and then append computers to it. That's it. So cy-visit computers, and then I'm just putting right now for simple object to verify that it opens correctly. So then the next concept comes like, okay, now how to identify objects. So in Cypress, it's really easy. There are only 2-3 ways which I prefer mostly. So let's go into it one by one. So I used this view a lot, the console view, and this annotation. It's called jQuery annotation, which allows you to easily find the unique elements on this page. So let's see what element we are looking at. Let's say I want to verify if I'm on this page, then this title should be visible, right? So how to identify? I click on this button, and then it will click on this button and it will show me that, okay, I have a header, which is a unique element, and inside it there is an h1 block, which has this a column, which has this text, right? So how I'm gonna write it? So I'm gonna write like this. So if you see header, all the tags which you see here, you can use as it is here. Then you can also define it using class name. So for example, I can also give it like top bar. I guess it's the same, small. So it's the top bar, and it's also the same selector. So if you see, it's a unique selector, right? And the next thing is a. So you need to provide space. So I'm going to use, instead of class name, I'm going to use the header, because that is unique, right? That is header, and there is section part on this page. So since it is unique, so I'm going to traverse like this. So header and then a, and I'm going to use this. And let's see how to write a test in using this selector. So this is called a selector. The selector is the way how Cypress will figure it out. Okay, when this page opens, so computer opens, what element should I look for? So I'm gonna look for header, and I'm gonna look for a, and that will give me a unique element, and then the assertion part. So the assertion will look something like this. It's a try assertion. So should contain some text. That's it. So it should contain, let's say, play simple application database, and let's see if it works. So what we are going to do now is we are going to open again the Cypress so that we can see it. So how to open it? npm run open Cypress. It will launch the Cypress. With now, since I removed everything, it will only show me the navigation spec. So see, it only showing me one spec file, and as soon as I click it, it opens the test. It visits the computers and verified. Tada! So now it, and the another cool feature I want to tell you guys that is nowhere in the market in any automation tool is time lapse. So you can time traversing. Sorry. So you can traverse back in your time and see what actually happened when the test executed. So you can traverse back, say this, and it will, so Cypress is going to tell you in the right side where is the assertion was happening, and which element. You can see here the get command which we put. So it will figure it out automatically that, okay, it's this element, and then you are seeing the assertion. That's this easy. And now let's write some more tests, and I'm going to keep this screen open to show you guys what Cypress is doing in the backend. So as soon as I write something, okay, it's gonna, let's just copy it. And if you see here, now there are two tests. So Cypress automatically detected there are two tests and it executed as on the go. You don't have to do anything. If you have this view open, it will auto sync your application code base with this view. So that's how, since you are writing, you are already verifying. That's how the quick now the job is. So now I'm going to write in the test some steps. So let's write the next step. So when I want to click here and I want to go on the create a new page, so let's go back to our application instead in the browser. So let's see what is the locator of this element. So the locator of this element is it's a tag or button success, but the class can change, so or we can also refer this ID, which is really unique if your developers follow it right. And for this page, so I can say in here that I want something like the ID was add, so like this, and it will on the Chrome automatically identified that, and he automatically showed you here. So let's take this and use it here, cy.get, and here I'm gonna pass my locator, and I'm gonna also assert some more things like it should be visible, right? If it is not visible, that means something is blocking UI. Then if it is visible, then I want to click on it. So the next step is click. And once I click it, let's see if it does at least these 3 steps. So it goes here and it clicked it. Of course, it was so fast. So we have to put some assertions after I click. So let's see what it actually did. So it loaded this page, So now I can traverse back in time to see what the test actually did. And that's really fantastic to understand, So now I'm on this page. And when I click the add button, so let's put assertion that when I click this page, this button is visible, create this, because this button is unique on this page, right? So again, I selected this, I went here, and this time I'm gonna use some other selector. Let's say I use button primary, because there will be only one primary button on this page. So what I'm going to use is button primary. So if it is a class name, you add a dot. If it is an ID, you add a hashtag. Now if it is the this name, the attribute, a section or header, you add it directly. You do not put something before. So since it's giving me this ID, you can also hover verify it. So I'm going to write it here. As soon as I click it, and this element should be visible, right? And let's see if it does fine. As soon as I saved my code there, it executed the test, and then I can traverse back and I can see, yes, it found the button. And that's really cool. So how far you can see how fast the test is. Now let's write a couple more tests, and then we will look into some other service. So you can also cancel this button, right? So I want to cancel it. So here, the uniquely to identify, I want to put a dollar, again section. So the section is this. Then you can also follow this, and here its ID is main. Let's just skip it, back to it. Then there is a form, so we call the form. And then here I want the div. So the form has a div, right? And here I want to click in this div and a part, something like that. This is just an example. It's not exactly the right way to do. In your application, you would use some test IDs, something like that, which we'll cover in future chapters. But as soon as you have it, you can use this and click cancel. So let's say cy.get and .click. Or first we can also do some assertion like should contain cancel text. So as soon as I save it, it clicked and it went back. So as you can see how fast it is, Yeah, let's verify it quickly. Yes, it identified the button, it clicked, and it went back. So as you can see, the test writing is very easy if you know some basics. And on documentation side, you will find everything, whatever I'm explaining. But it's also good to see it, right, in action. So once you are here on this view, let's see the next part. Okay, it's good that I'm running it from the UI, but what if I want to run it on some CI part where there will be no UI? It should run it as a command line option. So let's head back to our VS Code, and let me close it and clear it. Yes, and now here we can do a simply one more command where I will just say run, or I can just change this test block, because it was the default one. I'm going to change it to Cypress run. So the run command will tell Cypress to execute the test. That's it. So npm run test. And as you can see, it is not going to open anything. It is going to execute all the tests on the command shell. So it's also CI friendly. And in the end, when it completes, it is going to create some video, and its execution is done. It created some video as well out of the box, so it's a lot more information you can imagine as an evidence. So let's open it, and let's open the video to see what happened. And as you can see, the test, so the video will only be recorded when you run the test from this view, the terminal. It won't be recorded when you are on UI, because it makes no sense since it's already on the UI. So you have the video, and you also can define more logic behind it. But the next thing which we are going to see is using the dashboard service. So in Cypress, they also have a dashboard service where you can upload your projects. So this service is for private projects, it's chargeable, but for public project, and the charge is not that big amount, it's 100 or 200 euros, something like that. But for public projects, it's absolutely free. So you can log in. Sorry, you can log in onto the dashboard, and there is a previous run which I did, and I can just show you how it looks like. So as soon as and also how to set up. So as soon as you complete your execution on your machine, Cypress will automatically upload the runs on this dashboard service, and you can see all the run evidence here. So this was some test which I executed, and you can also verify the screenshots, or if there is any video, so you can see the video as well. So all the evidence, whichever is written, is passed over here. So yeah, and you can go back and see the failed one, how it looks like, and in the failures you can see exactly what went wrong, that it could not find its element in that test, and you can extend and see the more detail about it. So this is something which is not there out of the box for any tool which you see. And it also, the dashboard service is also going to help you with parallelization. That is not covered at this moment, we will cover it later. So in this moment, let's try to set our project with this dashboard service. So for that, I'm going to open this Cypress again, because you can set up from UI easily. So npm run open Cypress. So in here, you can go to the runs section, and it will try to fetch first your runs if your project is connected, or otherwise yeah, something, yeah, maybe it's down a bit, but here you can configure your dashboard. It's just a two-step process. Let me show you how it looks like. I have done it for other project, but in that project, as soon as you set up, you click two commands, it adds some ID for your project, and then you can run your test using a record key attribute. So in our setup, we were only using Cypress run, but then you can also add these two setups, and that will tell Cypress that you need to record it on dashboard, so that it will automatically push it, and that's all you need to do. For on you open the UI, which is this. Currently, it's not able to connect to the API server for some reason. Yeah, now it is connected. Okay, and now I'm gonna set it up. Okay, cool. So I can do it for right now. And as I said, it added some property on my setup. So let's check it out. This is the other one. Yes, in our project, the Cypress added this project ID, and then it is telling me that you need to add this command with run. So in this command, I can go back in package.json, and here I can say record with the key ID. And as soon as I save it, then let's say I run it again, npm run test. So here Cypress will execute the test, as well as it will push the evidence on dashboard. So, and now it is uploading the results, and it is done uploading. So let's see here. See, so this is our project, Cypress example project, and it is the execution time, when it is updated, and how much time it took, like around 7 seconds, and that's pretty fast. And it is our evidence, how the test looks like. And most of the organizations really need this evidence, and it really helps when you're running it on CI, because if something going wrong, if someone push some commit which is breaking something, you need some evidence to find out what's going wrong, right? And frankly, we did our own project, migrated from Protractor to Cypress, and it took us like how I mean 2 weeks to migrate around 300 test cases. And it also told us what were the flakiness or of our application was, and our now CI, it helped us to make our CI more stable. So we are also using this Cypress in our organization, and it's worth a value. So wherever you see that you can fit it, just try it out. The next part we are going to do, the last part, is we are going to push this code on GitHub. For some of us who are new to Git protocols, so here it how you do it. So first on your project, use type this command git init. Uh, so it initialize empty repository on this project, and as you can see, the left part is highlighted. It's something, it detected, git detected that something is changed. But it also told me on the pop-up, if you could not notice, that it said me that there are a lot of changes, and because the node modules, so the node modules, something which we don't want, so you can write a file. So you can just create you can just create a file with name as .git ignore, and there you can exclude the projects which you don't want. So now the Git is not recognizing this, and also I don't want the video to be uploaded on the GitHub. So I can also tell like Cypress videos should not be there. So as soon as I save it, both are not anymore going to be there on GitHub. So once I did that, so I can come back to my repository. So you can create a repository in GitHub, then add everything, whatever you changed. So using the command git add, let's do -a. -a tells you add all, otherwise you need to add one by one. So I am adding everything. Then this is my first commit. And then the next part is this. Then that's it, and it's my master branch, and our code should be pushed. So refresh it, and it's here. And I also in this repository I also pushed this other project. It's similar, and I also wrote some prerequisites and some notes, so you guys can also follow later. And that's it from my side. And then I guess Akshay can share more. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and Akshay.
Now, can you please stop the recording?
Yeah.